Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. My name is Jimmy Good, and I'm but one of your hosts, and joining me, as always, is my go-to podcast compadre, Miss Joe Lever. Joe, how fare you this evening, sir?
Fare very well, Jimmy.
That's very good. I know.
And greetings unto you, my good friend.
You have very fancy hair. If people are just listening to this, they can't see your fancy man hair, but it's fancy.
Fancy man hair. Yeah. I had to get cut. Had the website headshots at work today, so the hair on fleek, so to speak.
Oh, look at this. What are we? Was this like Frasier up in here? Okay, anyway. Thanks to all of our Legionnaires who are tuning in. We really appreciate it. And for anybody who's joining us for the first time here on the Critical Podcast, we like talking about movies, video games, TV shows, comics, cookbooks, superheroes and supervillains fighting each other, because we just recorded something called Mano y Mano, which you should definitely check out. Anyway, this week we have a little bit of news. Kind of sad and dumb news, but pretty funny to me. So apparently, Joe, the DC Extended Universe isn't the official name of the DC Extended Universe. So apparently, a little while ago, I think a journalist or someone had put that into one of their press releases, saying that, you know, these movies are part of the DCEU, because he figured at the time that's like probably what they would call it. Actually, if you look back into all the press releases that DC has done about any of the movies, they have never once mentioned the DC cinematic or extended universe or anything like that. Eventually, they're going to be coming out with a name and unfurling some sort of name, because right now, you know, we have a universe, but they're doing the offshot with the Joker stuff, and they might be doing like an offshot with the Batman stuff. So I don't know. Do you care about the name, Joe? Would you rather have, is there like a name in mind or something kind of fun that you would do, like Omniverse, or, you know, like something strange to kind of like bring it all together? Because right now it'll sound weird no matter what they call it.
Oh man, I don't know what you would call it. Does it have to be universe? Not really. The DC.
Yeah. Exactly. It just seems weird. Like at this point, if they unfurl, it's like the Dark Universe stuff. It's like, all right, like, you know. But I just thought it was kind of funny, and I just don't know what else they would call it at this point. Like, Extended Universe always sounded kind of dumb to me. I always liked Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't think they would call it the DC Cinematic Universe, because it would be too close. Like the DCCU. I don't know. Because that's, like, that seems like perfect, because you just say, oh, it's our cinematic universe, and it has offshots within it, but it's all the movies. It's always the movies, you know? Do you think they'd ever call it like the DC movie universe? Would that be stupid?
Lame.
It does sound really, it sounds really dumb, actually. They gotta be spitballing these things right now. They're like sitting up there, they've got the D and the C, and they're like, like, what are we going to call it?
This guy's ruined it for all of us. He picked the perfect name.
I just don't know why, like, at this point, wouldn't you just call it that? I would just say, yep. If I was DC, I would just be like, that's what we're going to call it. It's fine.
Just go with it.
Yeah. Does it bother you at all, though, Joe? Do you like that? Do you care about these kind of acronyms for that, or like the MCU or anything? Does that give you any purpose?
I don't think it's that important. I just think as long as you identify it as the overarching priority, how do you want to say it? Like, it is the legitimate.
It's just like the thing that ties it. Yeah, I'll say it's the ties that bind, I suppose. And I think Marvel kind of beat them to the punch on kind of all this stuff, and even the naming. And now it's kind of like DC wants to rebrand itself, even though. And I will say this, I think I brought this up maybe on one of the other podcasts. I was telling somebody this, but I walked out of Kingsman 2 with my sister the other week, and we walked by a Justice League poster, and she's like, oh, they're making a group, one of those, like a DC group movie. And I was like, DC, you have failed in your marketing. Your marketing is not good enough. My sister doesn't know what the Justice League is about. Like, everyone should know the Justice League. Like, when the Avengers came out, everybody and their brother knew like who the Avengers were, even though they were like a B tier at Marvel for the longest time. It's like, DC, you guys got to get it together. I don't know maybe just don't call it anything at this point. Like, don't have a name. Just say it's the DC Comics movies. Just, yeah. Plus, with, like I said, the whole Joker offshot and the Batman offshot, potentially, that are like spin-offs of the universe that aren't necessarily interconnected. Maybe they'll call it that, the DC Interconnected Universe. Seems kind of stupid.
Yeah, but
though.
the thing is, if it's a different Joker or a different actor, it's going to screw it all up. Like, that shouldn't be... Like, if we're going to call it the DCEU, you have to establish those main characters that play those roles, just like Marvel did. It's the legitimate... I'm trying to think of the word, but not series, but the...
Franchise.
The legitimate franchise characters. And these branch-offs are not associated with the DCEU. The story we are telling and the characters we are portraying and showing off are the legitimate story, the DCEU that we have established. Anything beyond that, not associated, we want no part of it. And that's how it should be. Because if they do these little branch-offs and they're using different characters or actors to portray the characters, it's going to...
Yeah, I was thinking about this too. We've already talked about the whole Jared Leto Joker thing, and they're making a new Joker that was in the 80s that isn't him. You want a really good way to piss off your actors that you're trying to pay to make these super like high-budgeted films. Tell them that there's also another film where their character is starring, but they don't get to play as it, and there's a good chance it's going to be more popular than their version. It's like, well, it's like, how do you want to come into work?
It makes no sense. First of all, Jared Leto's Joker is decent. It's pretty good. They just need to solidify him more and show him off.
Yeah. I think this wouldn't be happening as much if they wouldn't have had problems with that, and if Ben Affleck was actually going to stay on, because like.
And the problem is too is that they're putting so many eggs in one basket. Like, oh, the Joker was like, everybody talks about Heath Ledger as the Joker. The Joker was the best part of the Dark Knight series trilogy. Like, oh man, we got to capitalize on the Joker. The Joker is the most popular character in all of Gotham. Yep. Shut up. Nobody. He's not that important of a character. He's just a crime boss, basically.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of it is because people love Batman so much, and he's kind of like the antithesis to Batman or the foil to Batman. But I understand what you're saying. I wish other villains got their time in the sun like this. They just burned a lot. Like, I love Mr. Freeze, but the last time we saw him in a movie like that was Arnold Schwarzenegger playing him, and it's like, you know, it's just really rough to bring Mr. Freeze back to being scary and cool. Like, no pun intended, but I would just, I would love to see that, you know. They have a lot of cool villains in there, but because Batman is so central to all this, especially like the Justice League, you have him and Joker who aren't really solidified in your universe. It's kind of like if in Marvel, if like Iron Man wasn't really solidified as like a character, and like Robert Downey Jr. in the beginning was like, I might stay on for like a few, like people would be like, I don't take this seriously.
Here's how I view it, and here's how I think they should handle it. They should keep Jared Leto on. They should keep building that character and using him appropriately. They should just I almost like the thought of him not being a focal point in any film.
Yeah.
Like almost being that annoyance factor. And they also, in the B vs. S movie, Batman vs. Superman, they show off, maybe in the uncut version, right? Or extended version, they show off the whole bat suit with the Joker spray paint on it and the note or whatever.
I think it's just the regular one. Yeah, it's like, whatever you've done or something like that.
Either way, it's cool that they kind of allude to that conflict, but they don't make it such a focal point. There's bigger things going on here than a crime boss in Gotham, right? Yeah. So I think it's fine that he's featured, or maybe he foils a plan for the Bat once in a while, something of that nature, or as a distraction. But he doesn't have to be a focal point. You know, and with this Justice League thing, they're going bigger. There's bigger things at play here, bigger concerns than the guy that's, you know, pushing money and selling weapons and that sort of crap.
Yeah, totally. I think it would make a lot more sense in this Batman standalone film to have him be a third party and show up like at the end or in the middle and kind of just make things even worse for Batman, where Batman's like, I finally did this and beat like, Penguin or something like that. And then it's like he shows up to like kind of clean up and make money off this. And Batman's like, I just can't like do this right now. I'm like, near death. And he's just like,
yeah, it's as simple as this, remember the game Speed, Jimmy? When we were younger, it was the big thing to do with the deck of cards.
Oh yeah.
Speed. What was the Joker always? It was a wild card, right?
Yeah.
Counted as anything. Start up a new row. That's what he should be, the wild card. He should be that guy that you didn't see it coming, but, Batman just defeated this, larger than life foe. oh, but the Joker was kind of in the background the whole time playing off of it, you know, and he makes himself known towards the end or at the very end. And maybe they leave it on a cliffhanger that way. Use him in that nature. I think it'd be smart.
Yeah, a lot of it I think just comes down to what they're going to try to do with this other offshot Joker, and then also what Ben Affleck decides to do, because that's the scary part, is that like you give a lot of power to someone when you say
just always make sure his bottle of scotch is full in his trailer and keep him working.
And just keep once in a while just show a picture of Jennifer Garner, and he's just like, and then he just gets back on set. You're just like, swerve. Christian Bale just walks on set. And he's like, just come on, man. Let's just go for a quick walk. If we do a couple of scenes, we'll do a couple of scenes. All right, we'll just do a couple of scenes. Like this. I would love to see that, like a professional handler, like Christian Bale, the professional handler.
Christian Bale's cool.
Yeah, dude, he is cool. Also, great Bruce Wayne. I will talk about this very briefly, but in Dark Knight, I love the beginning where he's like falling asleep at this big like boardroom meeting. There's only like a few people there, and later on he's talking to Lucius about this guy Lau, and he's like, "Did you check Lau out?" And Lucius is like, "Yeah, I'm not sure. It's all like above board." And he's like, "You already knew that, didn't you?" So it's cool that like to me that Bruce Wayne is like always Batman, but he also has that time to be Bruce Wayne, to look into this stuff, and he just always knows everything. He's just like, "Yeah, I kind of knew, but I kind of want you to figure it out yourself." It's like, such a good Bruce Wayne. Anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. Anyway,
I sometimes I think that anybody in a similar likeness to Ben Affleck or Christian Bale could have made the Dark Knight character good.
Sure.
You know, yeah. I mean, I think Ben Affleck would have flourished in that role as well.
Yeah, well, I hope we still get a shot.
But I don't know vice versa in the role that Ben's in right now with the DCEU. Air quotes,
I don't know,
DCEU.
maybe.
But, I like the fact that Ben Affleck has that presence where he's a little thicker, first off. He played physicality-wise, he fits Batman a little better, I feel.
Well, they would have beefed up whoever they got. They give him, like, horse testosterone or something, and it's like...
Yeah, that's why I'm so big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You do it all like CrossFit, which I love that scene in Batman vs Superman. Like, that's how he's so ripped to fight Superman, is he's like pulling a tire with some rope across the floor. He's like, I can do this. Yeah.
The Rocky theme song.
Yeah, exactly.
I just think I like Ben has a bit more of a larger physicality. And brings a little bit more of that brooding Bruce Wayne presence. So I feel like he's fitting, but I don't know. I think I prefer Ben Affleck in this role today.
Sure.
I don't know that I would have rather seen Christian Bale. I don't know how I would have taken it.
I still just wanted Carl Urban. That guy is a treasure, but it's all right. Marvel got to him first, so it's all right. It's all good for you, Carl. Mr. Urban, I should say. We're not friends yet. Yeah, Carl, I know you're watching. Thank you for watching.
Anywho, those spinoffs are bad for the DC franchise.
Yeah, it's bad for the brand. Honestly, if Marvel started doing this, people would be like, are you guys jumping ship? Because instead of trying to get water and bail it out, they're just like, hey, we should just quickly like make a couple like little ships. Anybody like want to make a little ship right now? Like they're ripping up floorboards and they're like putting it together like
we need more nails, sir.
Like, no, we don't. Just pull out all the nails. Just pull them all out. It's like, don't worry about it. It's okay.
We'll just jump to the locker. This thing's gonna leak.
And Marvel's just sitting on their yacht going like, we made Doctor Strange and Guardians of the Galaxy profitable. Like, and they're like, no. The only other big news I wanted to just briefly mention is that Kristen Ritter from Jessica Jones, the person who plays Jessica Jones, tweeted out Jessica Jones 2 coming in 2018. They shot it back-to-back with Defenders, so I'm not surprised about that. It's a little, I guess, it'll be coming out in the spring, potentially. We got Punisher that's supposed to be dropping before the end of the year. So there's a good chance that this could be popping up maybe March or April or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you excited about it? You like Jessica Jones, right? Or did you not?
I did like it. But at the same time, it's good. Just sometimes those Defender characters, their series can be a little slow moving.
I heard something really depressing, and I didn't want to bring it up, but apparently out of all the Marvel Netflix stuff, like the Defenders had like the biggest drop off as far as like continued watching, and it also had like the lowest amount of people watch the first episode. Like everybody, there's like who's like such a small percentage compared to like one of the Daredevil seasons, and it was like that's supposed to be the big thing, and I'm nervous that if they keep cranking them out like this, people are just not going to care. Like there's gonna be like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like there's a special spark you need, and with the big films, they seem to get it. But I don't think it's because these are Netflix series that the draw isn't there. I think there's just something. There's a spark missing there, because for some reason I find myself getting a little bored with it. Maybe because it's not as fast paced because they have 13 episodes or something of that nature. I don't know.
But it's not fast paced. It's so padded out. Like those, like 13 episodes of Luke Cage and Iron Fist specifically, those feel like forever. Like they just keep going in circles, and it's like you guys have superpowers. You should be able to just like wrap this up. Like it's like
there's something about it that feels like it draws on, and I lose interest too easily. And I don't have ADHD or anything like that. I swear.
Well, hopefully the Punisher will be good. Like I hope the Punisher is.
Squirrel just ran by.
If the Punisher is bad, then I'm gonna have like no hope. I'll just watch maybe like going forward. I might only watch Daredevil. Like I'll probably put those other ones on in the background, but I just don't. Ever since Kingpin and Daredevil season 1, I just haven't really been interested in a lot of the
I have a little hope for the Punisher. Like interesting character, interesting story. I just hope it's not boring.
Yes, and I hope he's like. Not that the kill count needs to be high, but like he's the legit Punisher, and we've seen a little bit. You weren't on that week, Joe, but they showed like a new trailer. It's very John Wick. Like he's got to go through the. He's like dropping guys really, really fast. Sure. It's like they're keeping the one shot on him, kind of a continuous shot. And I was like, good guys, do that. Like if something's working in the movie space, try to bring it and use it as much as you possibly can in your TV shows, because that's what gets people to watch 13 episodes of like freaking just Luke Cage walking around Harlem, going like, we got so much crime.
You have all these things around you to learn from and take note on. Utilize it. I also think, is this going to be prior to the events of Daredevil and all that, or is it going to be post those series?
Well, I'm not sure about Punisher, but I think everything since then has been like pretty much chronological, or at least happening like roughly the same time and moving forward together.
Yeah,
so I think
I'm curious about Punisher. If it's all about his origin and that sort of thing, I don't know that I'm that interested. I'd rather see it like current day, maybe.
The first episode will be, and I think throughout he'll have moments where he's sitting in a room with a bottle of whiskey and like a gun, and he'll be flashback in it. But I think it's going to take place mostly after season 2 of Daredevil, where he got introduced, because he's like, I am the Punisher, and I'm like, please don't. The Punisher doesn't scream out that he's the Punisher. Hey, dial it back, Mr.
You just lost every cool factor you had by announcing you are the Punisher.
I know they couldn't get him back.
But it worked for Robert Downey Jr.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I am Iron Man. Yeah, dude, you're totally right. You're so right. Oh my God. They're like, what if we had him just scream in a courtroom that he's the Punisher, and they had to drag him away? I'm like, I miss Thomas Jane. Anyway, yeah, we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic. I've always liked the Punisher. Even as a kid, I always thought like, oh, he's not a superhero. He's just like a guy who's like really well trained. He's kind of like a step down from like a Deathstroke, but like he doesn't want to like leave like the mob alive. Like whereas like an Iron Man would be like, we need to bring them to justice. Punisher would be like, the only justice is a bullet. Like he's like, I'll kill everyone. And that's why I want to see him work with the Defenders. I thought he was going to show up in the Defenders. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. But I thought it was so cool because that was a problem that Daredevil had with them. He's like, we can't kill people. And he's like, the reason you have problems is because you don't kill people. It's like kind of the classic Batman thing where it's like, there's always like, how far are you willing to go to save people? And he's like, I'll never kill. And it's like,
pretty sure he killed some people in that latest movie.
Oh, that's the reason people are so angry about it. Like, Batman wouldn't kill it. It's like, okay, if they would have done the standalone beforehand and they would have said, all right, this is 20 years after that, and he's been like just years and years and years of him just being like, I can't do this anymore. And then that's why he opens fire on crooks right away. Like he's in the back, he's like, and the machine guns are going live now. Like he's just like, he's like, I don't even care anymore. I'm so done. And
and I'm fine with it because I like your approach, what you're saying. Like he's just done with it. He's had it, and he's kind of in a place where he's fed up with the turmoil in the world and the whole Superman happening with the alien Kryptonian deal. I feel like he's at a place where he's kind of dark and like he wants to take care of problems sight unseen and be done with it.
Yep.
And for a while, it didn't matter anyway because he branded people and they ended up dying in jail anyway. So
what a cryptic, weird,
he was inadvertently killing them.
But he knew it. He didn't care. It was such a weird thing. It was like, how did the criminals get behind that? They're like, hey, he's got a bat on him. Better kill him. It's like,
yeah, or maybe he's in that tough time in his life, and as Batman, it was a tough time, and he was doing things kind of off the rails, and maybe they're bringing it to a head with like him teaming up with the Justice League. That's going to kind of go back into a state of normalcy. So.
That's true. Well, I remember watching those trailers, by the way, for Batman vs Superman, and I thought that it was Superman that had the brand on him because he had that beard in the first movie of Man of Steel. I was like, did Batman like brand him as like hot kryptonite? He's just like, you'll never forget this day. It's like, I was like, this movie's gonna be weird, and then it definitely was, which was great and horrible. Anyway, speaking of superheroes, Joe, getting away from news, you watched, the first episode of Gifted, which I don't really know a lot about, but I want you to tell me. It just premiered. Tell me about Gifted, man. What's Gifted all about?
Yeah, so I don't know a lot. I'm not an expert on it as of yet. I watched the premiere last night. It would have been Monday night on Fox. They allude to the X-Men and how the X-Men had just disappeared. They don't know their status. They're kind of off the radar now. And these are still mutants, and it's kind of like a national prejudice / yeah. Excuse me. I'm trying to think of the right term.
A witch hunt kind of thing?
Basically, yeah, like eradicate the mutants, but they're not eradicating them. They're just merely detaining them because apparently they cause so many issues out in the real world that it's a national hazard or safety issue. But so they actually have some. There's this. I forget the name of the group. It's like similar to the FBI, only it's like a something task force or whatever, and it's basically a whole precinct type deal or organization implemented to detain mutants. And they have all this cool tech. They don't show off a lot of cool tech. It's pretty standard, guns and that sort of thing, like the police. But then they have there's spoilers, by the way. Spoilers. Switch. They have in the trunk of one of the squad cars they pull out this case, and there's like these tubes, and out of the tubes they kind of make it real eerie, and it's neat. And all of a sudden these mechanical spiders are everywhere, and there's like 20 of them or so, and they're like a little red orb or like a camera eye type thing, and they've got like robotic spider legs, and they literally like roll across the ground or they spider walk and climb things, and they track down mutants that are trying to flee, and they almost act like their legs wrap around you and create like a detention system, and they're very, very robust. So anywho,
those are probably like Sentinels, I think, maybe like offshots.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's the name of the organization, Sentinel something.
Okay.
Sentinel something.
Sentinel program, probably be part of it or something. Yeah, the Sentinels. You know what the Sentinels are, right, Joe?
Yeah. So anyway, these are like these little spiders, and they detain mutants and they track them down. And it was creepy the way they showed them off. Like they're in this giant parking garage, and they're like climbing on the pillars, and then all of a sudden they're kind of lost, and then they get back on the scent, sort of a deal, and it's dark in there, so all the eyes light up and point in one direction and start going that way. So the officers are like this way. Cool. It was creepy, but it's neat, kind of a more modern, younger, fresher take on the mutant thing.
Sure.
Which is kind of fun.
What kind of powers are we talking about here that a main cast of characters?
We're talking about like one of the girls is able to like morph elements, so like she can take the air and like compress it and create like shields.
Oh, okay, cool.
Or she can even like create domes over things. Like she domes in some of those spiders and like holds them back.
Oh, cool.
She can even like they were trying to escape in a car, her and her family, because they just discovered that her and her brother are mutant. And she, as they're backing out of the driveway, one of the Sentinel squad cars is there, and she projects the shield, and as they're backing up, it shoves it out of the way, the car.
Oh.
So there's that. One kid can like, I don't even know how to explain this power. He can like anything. Like he gets like angry or like channels his emotion, and he can like crumble a building around him.
Oh.
Almost like a gravitational type thing. So it's like crunching lockers and ductwork and like bringing the building down. He destroys the spiders in the end. He does like an emotional like hand draw, and it like just incinerates them into pieces.
Whoa.
So it's kind of an odd power. I don't even know what you call it.
Maybe like telekinesis in some kind of way, maybe?
Some kind of way. One of the girls has kind of a telekinesis power, actually, or like an energy power where she can like put force on things, like stop bullets or like move people or like break a leg. Which is cool.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool.
One guy has like this light ability, like he gets shot and the bullet hole just shows light through it, like a beam of light, and he can shoot it, and it's almost like a laser power.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. One girl has like a teleportation ability. She can like create portals.
Oh yeah, that's Blink, I think. Yeah, she kind of looks a little
she's got stupid green eyes.
Yeah. She was. People might remember.
Looks a little dumb.
Well, she's from Days of Future Past too. I think it's a different actress portraying her, but yeah, kind of she would be like, "Hey, I'll make a portal here. I'll make a portal over there," and you could jump through it and pop out over there. That's pretty cool.
So they show that off a little bit in this one. Like this group of underground mutants saves her.
Oh, sure. So do they have some sort of like tracking device with the Sentinel program? Do they to like hunt these kids down or hunt these people down? They just show up at their house.
No, it's almost just like investigative. There we go. I took high school English. It's been a bit of a day. Anywho, so like basically it's almost like a typical, it's almost like a criminal thing. Like they bring in these mutants and they actually like create a case on them and imprison them in a way. And I don't understand that concept yet. This is the introduction, but apparently this guy actually works for the court system, and he's a prosecutor for the city, and all of a sudden finds out through, I guess, his daughter and son went to this high school dance. His son started getting bullied in a locker room, and that's when he did his destructive, like, bring the whole gymnasium down deal. And his sister, who has a shield ability or elemental shifting ability, goes in and gets him, and they escape out of there, but somehow they got discovered. And I kind of missed a little part in their commercial. I changed the channel. I'm an idiot. Whatever.
That happens.
So they got discovered, and her mom found out, and that's when. That's how they got discovered. Somebody saw it and reported it, and the Sentinel crew showed up at their home, and her mom finds out at that moment, and they escape. That's when she pushes the car out of the way, and they drive off. Also, they get on the horn with the father, who's the prosecutor, and he's prosecuting mutants in these cases, and here are your options, sort of a deal. So they figure he understands what'll happen if they're caught. So now it's we're on the run thing. He gets in touch with this underground mutant group and says, "Can you get my family out of the country? My children are mutants," and he's got information on one of their group members who's being detained. So he's like, "I'll give you that information on where they're at and how to get them if you get my family out of the country." So they got to escape to Mexico because the laws on mutants are looser. So it's kind of the premise thus far is that family escaping the grip of the Sentinel group. So it's cool. It's cool. Younger, fresher take. Character-wise thus far, I think it's a good group. And I'm liking it. So I think I might keep up on it a little bit, see how it goes. Thus far, my hype meter, sitting at a good 8.5.
Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's really good for actually for a pilot episode. I was gonna say the story sounds like it's compelling enough because that's one of the biggest things with an on-running show like this week to week is that you want to be invested, especially you want to be invested in the characters. But right now it's kind of hard to be if it's only the first episode. If there's like any to cling to, because you might develop that as it goes on. Be like, man, I really like the kid who crushes everything around him. Be like, I really want him to be okay. Or maybe you're like, I hate that kid. I hope he gets shot. You know, like
it's a neat take on the whole mutant factor. You know, it's a little bit more based in reality. It's not like, you know, Professor X's School for the Gifted Children. This is like, you know, in real life, what would these kids who discovered their mutants be doing, or what would you know ensue? So it's neat. It really is. It's compelling. If you haven't seen it, check it out. See what you think.
Would you recommend it to people who aren't really into X-Men or mutant stuff at all too? Would you say this is a good jumping in point?
Yeah, mainly because of the it's more relatable.
Yeah. Do they have pretty good budget? It sounds like the stuff you're talking about is a pretty good effects.
Pretty good budget. Yeah, for sure. All the effects thus far have been pretty good. CG wise, you know, well done.
Cool. Maybe I should check it out then if you want to keep talking about it. I'd like to maybe give it a few episodes and then maybe watch 2 or 3 together and be like, all right, make a decision then.
Yeah, and I'll say this, in comparison to some of the comic DC stuff you see on like the CW, which is a little more, you know, that stuff is good, but it's slightly more cheesy.
Oh, for sure.
This has a more serious tone to it.
Oh, that's cool. So, that's actually a good thing.
And it's not like Arrow serious tone.
Oh yeah, well, Arrow wants to be serious, and then
it gets a little. Arrow can be a little far fetched at times. This is more gritty in real life kind of a deal.
Sure. Well, they also like go a little bit too above and beyond. It's always like an archer who's a bad guy who's like torturing people, and you're like, why is this? Seems excessive. Anyway.
And there aren't just a barrage of flashbacks.
Exactly.
None thus far.
The island. If you ever say the island to Oliver, he just loses his mind. Cool, man. We'll have to check that out. It sounds pretty cool. Sure. I know these would probably be things we talk about in Timekillers, but that was kind of a thing that came out, you know, really recently. I want to talk about it. And something else that came out really recently, like today, that I wanted to talk about, Battlechasers Night War. A game that you can pick up either on PC, Xbox, or PlayStation 4, and it's coming to Switch eventually. Now, Joe, I know you said you weren't really familiar with this. I kind of had you look at it before we started up here today. I want to talk about it just a little bit. I've played maybe 2.5, 3 hours worth of it so far, and I gotta say, for my time with it at PAX and now here, I really love it. It's nice to kind of get more in depth on like actual systems of the game, because when you play a game for maybe 15 minutes, it's hard to say like, oh, I know the intricacies of these little things, especially in like a loud environment, even with headphones on. But the game, I think the biggest selling point to anyone who, and you know, rightly so for a video game, should be the look. And to me, I absolutely love this art style by Joe Madureira and like his brother Steve Madureira, who does the animations, the guy interviewed. And I absolutely just love like every animation in this game is so beautiful, especially the fight animations. When everybody gets into a fight, your party members all kind of do like their little pose to kind of show off something, and all the enemies show up in a different way. Like if you're fighting spiders, they'll descend from the roof. If you're fighting like a bandit who's all stealthed up, he'll jump in and he'll kind of move around with his knives and stuff. And they all just look so cool. And then as you play through this RPG, which is turn-style-based combat, so if you're unfamiliar with what that is, it's like you have your party is on one side of the screen and the bad guys are on the other side of the screen, and you take turns kind of, you know, basically beating the snot out of each other. And you, on this specific one, you can kind of see the little pictures of your person in the turn order. So it can be like, all right, my guy's going to go, my other person's going to go, and then the bad guy's going to go, and then my last guy's going to go. So it's like, oh, if you do an ability with one of these guys to kind of push the bad guy back a spot, like if you can stun him or do something like that, it could be very advantageous. Or maybe you want to use a move that isn't instantaneous and it'll take you a turn or two to pull off, but it'll do a lot more damage. So it's just such a flashy game. It's really fun finding the synergy with these characters. I only have 3 to start off with. Garrison, this guy with this big broadsword, Gully, this young woman with these big like gauntlets, and then Calibretto, which is this big like war golem who's like this big mechanized guy who's got like a big gun in one hand, or gun for a hand, and a big just fist in the other that he just punches people with. And I'm just really excited to get more into it. It's just a beautiful looking game. It feels simple, but in a really good way, and it really rewards intelligent combat strategy. So if you kind of like, you know, you make one person taunt and then you defend that person, and you can really get out of some of these more tough battles a little less scathed, as it were. And I love it, and I can't wait to get more of the characters. I can't wait to get more into this mythos, and it's based on an old comic that they revived from like a long time ago. So there's been a few touches here and there of that. So if you're a fan of the comic Battlechasers, you might say like, hey, I know what they're referencing. But if you don't, there's like lore around the world you can pick up and read. It's there if you want to. They don't shove it in your face, which I love. That's something that bigger games like Destiny 2 is trying to get better about. But it's like there's lore to this world, and you can pick it up. Like when you're going through a dungeon, you can find out what these bandits, like some of these bandits don't like what's going on with like their bandit captain. He's different now, and you pick that up through like just the context clues as opposed to interrogating a bandit. But yeah, it's just a great looking game. The super moves that they do, they'll do like a cut across the screen of like the eyes of the person doing it, and it's like the cool comic version, and then they do like a cool stance, and they just like pull off this amazing like burst ability, and it can be a real game changer. And I really love it, and I can't wait to play more of it because it's just very easy going. You know, you got your loot, your steady clip of progression, and they even have some kind of talent trees later on that I was just getting into. So there's some variety there of how you approach these things. And once you get all 6 party members, there's a lot of synergy I think that's going to happen. And you say, hey, I built my garrison, the guy with the broadsword, this way. But if I did it this way, he'd work better with the war golem Calibretto, you know, to play off of each other. Because once you start doing that, it gets really fun. And Joe, you'd probably like this, but Garrison, I just picked up an ability where it's like he can bleed people, so you can like stab them and then take damage over time. But then he has another ability called Siphon that when he activates it, everyone who's bleeding, he does damage to them and gains some health himself. So when he does this, I was like, oh, this is such a vampire move. But when he did that, he like puts his sword out, his eyes glow red, and there's like this stuff around him, and he gets kind of pale, and they like take damage, and he like pulls in like the blood, and I'm like, what the? I'm like, am I a vampire? I'm like, this is so cool. I was like, oh man, it's just a really cool world, and I just can't wait to play some more. But yeah, Joe, what do you think about this game? You've looked at it a little bit.
Yeah, from what I've looked at, it seems you know, you used the term comic booky a while back, and I get that vibe from it in a good way. The illustrations are really cool and everything, and you're kind of saying that they kind of do like illustration. What do you want to call it? Little cutscenes.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. I think it's a game that you know, I haven't played it myself, but from what you say and seeing the gameplay trailer on the website, seems a lot like for somebody that has a good appreciation of art and illustration, it hits at home because it's not so much. You know, striving to be like, you know, for instance, a Destiny or a Call of Duty. It's not that realism CGI. It's more artwork, which I think is appealing and pretty cool. So,
yeah, and you could definitely tell that this team is the same people who worked on Darksiders. I've been fighting spiders a lot lately, and they look just like the spiders from Darksiders. And I think they embrace and love that. And I think there's even a few other little hints here and there to that franchise. I'm like, that's great. But I forgot to mention that this game I picked up for like 26 or 27 bucks on Steam. It's not a full price game. I think it's like a half price game, you know, comparatively to like a $60, $65 game, which they are. But that's why the cutscenes specifically, like we were just kind of talking about one there, but like the actual cutscenes in the game will be like still hand-drawn like comics that they're kind of panning over, but they'll be like animated and stuff. Like once in a while, it'll be like me standing here and then me going like this, and like I'm talking over it. So it looks really good. Like, looks very good, and you'd be interested, or I'm interested to know if they would have had the budget, because this is a Kickstarter game, if they would have had the budget to make fully hand-drawn like actual cutscenes for everything, like the intro to the game is, where they show like all the characters fighting, but it's like a 2D like old school Disney style, like somebody drew out those animations, like probably the guy I shook hands with did that. So yeah, it just it's a really cool game, and you should definitely check it out and support it. I'm going to try to do a review in progress or review on it, but it's just so much fun, and it's so easy to pick up for that price. Like for me, I just love the Darksiders look, and I love this RPG, you know, kind of element to it where it's not like a super duper hardcore one, but there's enough depth there to have fun for people who've played a lot of those in the past, like I have. So if you like older Final Fantasy games, this is like a modern day version of that, which I love. Like Final Fantasy X. It's like that, but newer, and looks like Darksiders. So I'm like, I love it. So yeah, I'm gonna be streaming that some more because I love it. And if you're ever interested, please stop on by or consider picking it up. Like I said, it's on PC, it's on Xbox and PlayStation 4, coming to Switch eventually. I also recommend, if you do play it on PC, consider using a controller. Unless you have a mouse that has vibration or rumble pack built into it, because the controller, like, every hit feels so good, and like even just the regular kind of jab that Gully will use, the girl with the gauntlets, the one with the gauntlets, like every time it's always like a delayed, and then she like hits him so hard, and it always feels so incredibly good. And the last thing I want to mention, the menu screens look great. It's like you open a book, you can look at your character, you can spin your character all the way around, and you can like look at them, and then you can go do the same thing for all the enemies that you find. You have like a bestiary, so you can look at them, and eventually after you kill like 5 or 10 of them or something like that, you get to learn all their weaknesses, their stats and stuff. So you fight them for a while, it's always question marks by their health bar, but then you do that enough, it's like, oh yeah, that spider always has 68 health or something. But then you can like look at that spider and flip it around and look at it like in the little manual. Every game, Evolve needed that, Destiny needs that, every game needs that, Horizon needs that, every game franchise needs that, because it is so cool, because those models are sweet, and you should not be able to just only see them in battle. You should be able to look at them whenever you want. Also, there aren't random battles in this game. You will always see on the map that you're traversing where they're going to be, or if you're in a dungeon, you will see them walking around the world, and you can aggro one and fight just one guy by himself, or you can take on 2 or 3 of them at the same time if you want to. So it's really just a really great game so far. I really dig it. So I can't wait to get back into it. Yes, just might even boot it up again tonight. Who knows? I really like it. It's just good. It's also a soothing experience compared to Destiny, which is just very different. You know, first-person shooter, hanging out with your bros, single-player experience over here with Battlechasers, just like chilling out, just managing my team. So,
sure.
Yeah, there we go. All right, Joe. Before we get to the next segment of the podcast, I would like to take a moment to salute our commander, Jonathan Larson. We thank you so much, our $100 patron over on patreon.com. Thank you, Jonathan. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Good man.
As Jonathan likes to say, their fate concerns me. Yours does not. And if you're interested in becoming a $100 patron over on Patreon, go check it out, and then you can get an amazing, like, fully customized drawing by the one and only Yoren Evers to show off your support of the Legion. Thank you so much. Now, Joe, it's time to get into that segment of the show that you like to call, that I like to call, that we like to call
Timekillers.
That's right, it's time for Timekillers, Joe. That was really good, because last week we talked about questions here. Anyway, Timekillers, the games we've been playing, the movies we've been watching, the TV shows we've been viewing. We've already talked about Gifted and Battlechasers, but for me, I've like picked up Frasier. I've seen I was like watching a little bit of Frasier the other day. I think I saw like the first half of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 again. My family was watching that. They weren't big fans of the ending of that film. They weren't very happy with it. But I thought of you, Joe, because I saw Michael Rosenbaum's character, and I thought Joe would be like, I wish he was in this movie. Like, not an ice dude. Like, it's like they got to him. But yeah, I've just been playing Destiny 2. Joe, how about you, man? What have you been killing time with?
Ooh, Destiny 2 for show. Me, Drew, you. It's been good.
You've been running Crucible, right?
Yeah, Crucible a lot, but to be honest, I haven't played since Friday.
Oh yeah, I played a little bit. Yeah, I was looking into that raid, Joe. That raid's gonna, if we want to do that raid, it's gonna take a while. It's gonna take a long time.
Save like that for a weekend, perhaps.
I think there are checkpoints and stuff though, because I've been hearing like the best team in the world did it like in 5 hours. Like a normal run is like 7 hours. So it's like I think you have to do certain parts and then you can come back to it or something. I don't know. I was like,
all right, here's the plan, Jimmy. We start in the evening on a Saturday, around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock ish.
Yeah,
just go.
Yeah, exactly. I would love to do that too. I'd rather just be like, just go. Like
it would be fun. It would be
a lot of fun.
Just grind it out and get it done, and I'm sure it'd be a blast. So,
yeah. It's like the last thing I want to do before I put out like a score on this thing. It's like,
yeah, sure. No, we need to do it. Maybe if the 3 of us, me, you, and Drew, have time this weekend, we get after it. That'd be cool.
And
we should try and stream it up. That's something I've been thinking about lately. Speaking of time killers, we haven't killed much time together as a group online playing a game, streaming.
We've done a little, we've done like a little bit of Destiny here and there, but you're right, it hasn't been anything since like Ghost Recon or Overwatch.
Yeah, for me, because I was thinking about it as we started talking time killers, I was like, man, I'd like to Yeah, we broke down a few times here or there over the past month, but nothing like real hardcore where we had the stream going and all three of us were watching and we got the community chatting over there. I'm missing it a little bit.
Well, I'm sure I know the community misses you. At least some of them do, I'm sure. Well, we've been doing it. I think we've been busy and we haven't been lined up. I've been kind of shooting in the afternoons here as opposed to the evenings. But
I know you've been going solo, right? But yeah, I miss it. I miss it a lot.
Well, we could definitely do that this weekend if you wanted to. But yeah, again, this is just a peek behind the curtain, everybody. You guys just get to see this. This is exclusive stuff that you're seeing here. These conversations. I mean, top dollar, right? Top drawer too. Paying top dollar. Oh no. Anyway, but yeah. But you haven't been killing time with anything else. Mostly just that.
Yeah, mostly that. I did rent a movie, Jimmy. I remember you saying I saw it. It was funny, but not good. And I was like, oh.
I know what it is.
But I was curious. And I had to do it. So I rented Baywatch. I was like, Dwayne Johnson's in it. Zac Efron. I've been liking the things he's in lately. You know, he's funny. Oh my God, this is probably the most piss poor movie I have ever seen in my life.
God, there's only like 2 funny moments in the whole thing, and it's sad. It's hard to watch.
It's very sad. I'm like, Dwayne, what the hell were you thinking, man? Come on.
His dialogue is so like him constantly swearing is just I can't get used to it. Like it's just so weird. I'm like,
it was horrible. And then the only good part is you get that one model that plays CJ or whatever, and that's about it. The rest of it is like
you almost like to it's like the original script was like that nerdy kind of bigger guy was like the main character who was like kind of like getting on the team, but he gets like relegated to being like just a side character who like falls in love with like the hottest blonde chick who's there.
Apparently it works out in the end, which is like, all right, whatever.
But like he's on the couch in the morning. It's very strange. Anyway,
yeah, horrible.
I don't get it.
And I've never seen the original Baywatch. Maybe that's the problem.
Dude,
but I feel like they were legitimately like spoofing the original Baywatch. Like, no, this is like something you guys should be reporting to the cops. Like Efron, they used him to kind of play that. Like he's like, why aren't you telling the cops about this? This is clearly not. We're a freaking lifeguard, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so is he like making fun of the show because the show always did this? And
this was nothing like the show. I remember because my family used to watch it back in the day, back in the 90s or whatnot. It's nothing like that. They have David Hasselhoff who shows up, talks to The Rock, doesn't he, for like a minute? Or he shows up and says something. Yep. And then how much do you think they had to pay Pamela Anderson, spoiler alert, to come in at the end, say nothing, and just sit on a table and look at everyone? She doesn't say one word. How much do they think?
Her and Hasselhoff are just hard to look at, man.
I know. It's just... That movie, it's just kind of sad because I think with a better script, Dwayne Johnson, I think he's kind of funny, but he's been starring against like with Kevin Hart. I think if Zac Efron's funny. Like he's a funny guy, and they do not give him. He's just a straight up jerk in this movie. He's just kind of like, I've won a couple gold medals, but I'm kind of a burnout now, and I'm so hot, and this girl and I are gonna do it eventually. It's just like,
what did they call him? Because he puked in the pool. What did they call him?
Oh, the vomit comet?
Yeah.
Or something?
That was kind of funny. And then when he gets drunk at that party and he falls into the pool, he pukes a little.
Yeah, what is he like? He kind of gets knocked into he's like, as he's falling into the pool, he's like, you dick. Like, to the Rock. I'm like, yeah, that relationship between them is so, like, I think the sequel would be better because they'd already be friends because the whole movie is kind of like them railing against each other, The Rock and Efron, where it's just kind of like, oh, like, you don't get how my life is and you don't understand me. And it's just like, okay.
Let me just say this. You know, Zac Efron, I think his best role to date is in Neighbors 1 and 2.
Sure.
Like, I legitimately thought those movies were funny. And for somebody who, like, went to college and experienced that whole scene, it's just funny because you kind of get it, right? It's relatable, but they kind of, you know, they clash two worlds, two lifestyles, you know, the whole new parents in the house and then the frat lifestyle, the college party scene. It's funny. And I really think Zac Efron is underrated. I think he does a good job because you look at him and you're like, he seems like he should play a more serious character in anything he does.
Yeah.
not just because he's good looking or whatever, but because he just has a serious appeal to him, like almost similar to a young Brad Pitt, right? Okay, good looking,
sure,
whatever. But you know what I mean? Have you ever seen Brad Pitt in that light in like a full-on comedy deal?
We've seen him a few times. It's usually not great.
But Efron does a good job, and he truly is funny. Like, I love the whole "I'm Batman, no, you're Batman." Him and why do I always Seth Rogen?
Seth Rogen, yeah, for sure. Well, now that you're talking like a young Brad Pitt, not that he was like the youngest, but I'd love to see Zac Efron in like an Ocean's 11 style movie. I think he'd be great as like a con man. Like, I think he'd be a very good, like, funny con man who just kind of like, it's all good, and he's like, we just got to make some money.
I truly do think he's a good actor, but dude, when him and The Rock are doing like the physical competition on the course, I'm like, how did is that all Efron does is work out like every hour of every day?
Yeah, I know.
Like, he's got muscles on muscles on muscles. I don't even think he has bones in there. I think it's all just muscle.
I just want to know how many people drowned during that time they were doing, like, The Rock was moving, like, refrigerators. I'm like, why are we even doing this? Like
yeah, right?
You're a monster, dude. Yep, you did it. It's like...
I could move those refrigerators. I could do it.
I could do it if I had a flatbed. That's about it. I get some people to put it on the flatbed, and then I'd probably drive the flatbed. Well, I mean, I don't have the license for it, so I'd probably have someone else drive the flatbed. Anyway, so you watch Baywatch. All right.
Oh, God, it was horrible.
All right. Well... Now we're moving on to something that's not horrible, Joe. It's the best part of the show to me and you.
Questions and community feedback.
That's right. It's time for community feedback and questions. We got some good questions here today, Joe, and I want to focus on the questions because we got some great ones. And I've neglected a few, unfortunately, because they were sent through messages on Twitter as opposed to tweets. So forgive me. This one comes in from Fragadem. What are some important elements to a story for you when it comes to films that impact you most? Also, what are some cliches you simply cannot stand that are attached to a storyline? #Critical Podcast. Important elements to a story for when it comes to the film that impacts you the most. I think for me, what I've realized is I look at some that like impact me emotionally, and I really do. And I know I talk about this franchise a lot, but Lord of the Rings always has. And the older I get, the more I realize why. I think is that in my own personal life, there's been a lot of times where I thought like, oh man, like there's just like bad things are happening to me, and there's just like there's no hope, but there's like a faint glimmer of hope. And that's what basically the kind of the whole focal point is of Lord of the Rings, is kind of saying there is this very, 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 very slim chance of success. However, through a group of individuals and just even larger forces coming together to attack and destroy this other big force, they overcome insurmountable odds because they have that glimmer of hope. And that if you always endure and remember that, that could be a powerful thing. And I think the best line maybe in all of those films for me is, like I said, I've probably mentioned this again many times, so I'm going to do it because it's really good. Return of the King, spoiler alert. They're walking in, there's the black gate, opens up. Sauron's looking at Aragorn, and he's like, Aragorn. Aragorn turns and looks back on everyone. It's like, is he going to turn on everybody? What's happening here? And then all he says is, for Frodo. And it's like, oh, this whole time he's been fighting at Helm's Deep and Pelennor Fields and all this stuff. He's got the dead have been on his side, all these things. But he's never lost sight of what the whole mission was. The entire time, he's like, we got to do this. We got to give him a chance. Even if he's dead, we don't know. I believe in my heart that he's alive, but we got to keep fighting. And because of that, well, the rest is history. And that's just something to me. Like, that's what usually impacts me the most, is always being hopeful regardless of the odds. So, yeah. Joe, how about you? What are some things, elements in films that make it most impactful to you?
Promise me, listeners, viewers, Jimmy, don't tear up my man card.
No such thing.
I love those, and I think a lot of people appreciate it, but there's a couple aspects. Number one, I love the somebody's down but not out, makes a unbelievable comeback or a prominent return. And I'll give you an example. And this is a prediction. I hope it happens. And I think we know what's going to happen. But in the Justice League film, I want Clark Kent / Superman to make a goosebumpy return. And I have a feeling that it coincides with Alfred. Let's hope you're not too late, sort of thing. He shows up, I hope it is something of that nature, and it just gives you the chills. And when he shows up to help, it's just like a turning point, right?
Yeah.
So I love moments similar to that. That's a prediction example. I'm not going to go into the other movies that have had that. Lord of the Rings is a good one. You always have kind of those moments that just give you goosebumps, especially those epic battle scenes, Helm's Deep, whatever, where you just think all is lost, and all of a sudden you get that second charge from another group or something like that. I also think another thing that is impactful is like relationship-wise or love story-wise, love interests.
Yeah.
If that inspires something great to happen, or like I also enjoyed, like an example of that, Wonder Woman. I thought it was interesting. She developed that relationship with Steve, and when she sees the plane blow up and he's up there, and she just like lets loose, and then just literally lets loose and just loses it. I thought that was a cool goosebumpy moment. So
Yeah.
anything that gives me goosebumps, those are two examples of aspects of films that give me that feeling that I just love. So, yeah.
Yeah. And as far as the second half of that question, what cliches do you dislike? There's one for me for sure that I absolutely hate. I just want to make sure that this is what he wanted me to answer, because I don't want to go too far into this. Yep. Some cliches you simply cannot stand that are attached to storylines. Okay. There is this really, really, really horrible thing that happens in every comedy. Comedies are usually based on a lie or some sort of weird circumstance. And about the 3/4 of the way through, if it's like a pair of guys or a pair of women or whatever, like the Friends or whatever, or a romantic relationship, there's always the liar revealed thing. And so they have this like near the 30 minutes to the end of the movie mark where it's like everything's sad. I'm so sad. Indeterminate amount of time passes and I've been sad. And like I absolutely hate that, because in the last like 5 or 10 minutes, it's always like, oh, we're back together. Like the romance is back on, or the friendship's back together. And it's like everybody's fine and happy and dandy. It's just like everyone does this. Billy Madison, Wedding Crashers, freaking like Mean Girls. Like it doesn't matter what it is. Like it's always the comedies specifically that do this. And I absolutely hate it, because just like I know it's coming and I just hate it, because there's like 10 minutes in a funny movie that's just like, nope, it's not going to be fun. It's going to be sad. And it's like, ugh, why do you do this? So that's kind of like a cliche for me almost, if that makes sense, even though it might not be. It's just like, it is just a part of those that's become cliched to me, where I'm like, ugh. So how about you, Joe? Any cliches you hate like that?
I feel like romantic comedies are full of cliches.
Sure, you have
to explain it.
Like the kind of the
Even
ending scene.
Comedies, period, are full of cliches.
Yeah. I think it's more so like the ending of romances that are romantic
For
comedies.
Sure. Yeah,
and it's like they finally get together. It's like the whole movie. Which, by the way, I saw My Best Friend's Wedding on TV a few weeks ago. That movie is about a villain. All right, if you've ever watched that movie and cheered for Julia Roberts, you're cheering for the villain. She's trying to ruin a perfectly good relationship for a man that she's had in her sights for years. So it's ridiculous. It bothers me a lot. I'm like, why do people like this film? It's about a villain. She's a bad person. Anyway, sorry. But you're right. Comedies, I think comedies just fall back on it. They do that, and then they hit up the stereotypes a lot, and it's like, okay, that was maybe funny once, but now it's just like, all right, I get it. Like, yeah, I haven't seen a good comedy in so long, and I thought Baywatch was going to be that comedy, Joe, and we both know how that turned out.
Yeah.
Horrible. Question comes in from our friend Mage. A future podcast question. Well, here it is. I always talk about how I'd love a Zelda-style Pokemon game, like Breath of the Wild. Are there any franchises that you would like done in this style of, for a different game? #Critical Podcast. So basically, take any game franchise, Joe, and just make it super open world, kind of like Ghost Recon. Go anywhere, climb anything, do anything. Pokemon's really good. Pokemon would probably have been my pick.
Yeah, that's good. I'm not sure what I would do. Ghost Recon kind of capitalized on my hopes and dreams for that.
I guess, I've been talking about Battlechasers all night, but I would love to see a Darksiders that I know they've done open world, but like, yeah, you can climb that tower if you want to with Death. You can just climb it. Like, you don't have to have like rope or like a special way to climb up there, like on wooden beams. Just climb it. It's fine. I would love that. Pokemon, Pokemon's the best one though. Just like a big open world like that, you can go anywhere. Because you have to take a franchise too that maybe hasn't been open world yet, and they just say, "Yep, it's open world." Like Gears of War might be kind of nuts if you made it open world like that. That would be insane if they said it's like Gears of War 5 is now open world and you can climb buildings and stuff. Like what? Like ambushing. Like, that would be. Oh boy, that would be really cool. Yeah, or just give Horizon Zero Dawn or maybe Witcher the ability to climb anywhere you want. There you go. There's some of the good ones. All right, Joe. We only have 2 more questions here. One from Night Warrior 29 says, "You go on a 1-month vacation anywhere you want. You can only take 1 game and 1 console. What's your choice?" Hashtag Critical Podcast.
I'll go first.
Go first. Where are we going on your vacation? Where are you going?
I'm going to Whistler.
He's not playing video games. No. Anyway.
Ski vacation for show. Any of
right.
my friends can go, whatever. It's all good.
What's the game and the console?
The condo we book has a few flat screen TVs and magnificent Wi-Fi. So, first off, I've got it's a toss-up between Destiny 2 and Overwatch.
Sure.
Yeah. We ski all day, come in, beers in the hot tub, and then we go game for a while, then bed, then ski again, then beers in the hot tub, then game.
Do you take your Xbox obviously with you, Xbox One?
Xbox One for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I guess right now I'm probably in the same boat almost with Joe. I'd probably want to bring like Destiny and my Xbox somewhere so I can still play with the guys, but still play by myself. It's just like I like having that game where it has such a good amount of like single player, but also multiplayer and co-op stuff. So there's just like you're not wanting for anything with Destiny. You're not like, man, I wish it had a single player. It's like, yeah, it does. It's probably my Xbox, but where would I go? I'd probably go somewhere tropical. I'd go somewhere really tropical. So I can just kind of chill and like look at the beach. Maybe the Caribbean. Have a nice like open area. Just kind of like sitting there, just look at the water. Oh, that's nice. Then back to the game, or go out there and play for a bit. Yeah, that'd be great. Because honestly, if I went to Disney, I would not be staying in my room very much playing games because I'd be out in the park. Yeah. Last question comes in from Anna, our Captain Anna. She says, "Echo Critical, hashtag Critical Podcast. What do you think about all the cinematic cutscenes in video games? Does it help it or take away from the game?" Joe, what do you think? Do you like cinematic, like when you're playing Destiny 2, do you like those cutscenes?
Yeah, it helps it for sure. I get pretty caught up in watching them, because it really helps to flesh out the storyline a little better, especially if a game or the campaign gets a little fast-paced. It helps to connect everything.
Yeah.
And put a little cherry on top of the sundae so you kind of understand what you're doing, what it was for, how it affected things overall. And if it's a well-done cutscene with, the nice voiceover and the really well-done animation, I'm all about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way of putting it. And I think of that, but I also think of a game like Uncharted where that feels like you're playing a cutscene the whole time, or they just play a lot of movies. But sometimes I would just fight to get to the cutscenes because it was so cool to just watch this narrative play out that I really loved and enjoyed. So sure. Yeah, I think you're putting that, especially for first-person shooter, giving you a purpose to fight on always helps. So yeah, I think it helps. I'm trying to think of ones where it takes away from. I will say this, they weren't really cutscenes, but in Bayonetta, they had like a bunch of like still shots and stuff, and it would take forever, and there would be like a still shot of her, and then it would just be like her talking, and a still shot of something else. It just wasn't that good. Like Battlechasers does it way better, but some of those cutscenes can go on for a long time, so it depends, because if cutscene overstays its welcome, it's like you're watching a movie instead of playing a game. Like it has to be like 3 minutes, 4 minutes maybe, and then you can go on. If it's like 8-10 minutes long, it's like, all right, I guess I'm going to go up and do something else, like go run a few errands or whatnot, if you don't like the story, that is. So yeah, great questions. And if you have any questions or topics or feedback for the podcast, all you have to do is tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast to either of us. You can tweet at our official one, at Go Critical, that's a capital G and a capital C, or at me personally, at JimmyGood013. If you have a question specifically for Joe, you can tweet at
Lever_627. That's Lever just like Beaver, only with an L.
That is correct. And like I said before, we were talking about Destiny 2, we're talking about Battlechasers Night War. Both games you should check out. But we are playing them on Twitch, so you should just check us out over there. I think it's twitch.tv/critical reviews. Go check it out. turn on notifications, come hang out with us. It's just a jolly time, just like usually me hanging out chat. We're just talking like this, playing a game. Sometimes I even just do a stream where it's just like this. You can talk to me like we're on a podcast together. Like you just type in the chat and I'm just talking right back to you. Those are fun streams. Like I call them "It's All Good" streams because, yeah. Oh boy. Just playing the cards I was dealt. That's all I'm doing. It's one of them is the Joker card. It's always wild. Am I right, Joe?
Oh yeah, always wild, baby.
All right, there we go. He's on board. Anyway, I want to thank you people. Thank This is Dale for our amazing intro, outro theme that I love so very, very much. And to the one and only Yoran Evers. We were talking about him earlier tonight, doing, if you want to be a $100 patron, you get a fully customizable avatar. But if you can't donate that much, even at $1, you can get a customized face avatar on our recruit or any of the other tiers like that. But if you want a commission done by him, just go check him out as Niraj28 over on Twitter. But if you do want to support us, check us out on patreon.com/criticalreviews, where you can see all of our goals, all of our tiers, all the things we're trying to get to make all this stuff even better. But if you can't do that, just consider sharing this with a friend. I mean, I know a lot of you guys have done that so far, which we really appreciate, but that really can help. Send them a review. Podcasts are kind of long, but if you just do that, I implore you to do that. If you really want to help and you're like, I can't donate money or I can't donate any more money, just share it with someone. Don't like force it on them, but just be like, here's this thing. Maybe you'd like it. That's all we want to do is educate and entertain the world and keep them from watching Baywatch or maybe like The Mummy or something like that. Oh boy, it's been rough. Anyway, thank you, Joe. Another great week having you on here. Any closing remarks?
Just thanks to all the listeners and another good week, Jimmy.
Yes, it was. All right, well, thank you guys so much. Love and hugs to all of you, and we will see you next week on the show where we'll be talking about something, probably games, movies, or TV related. Who knows? Maybe even cookbook episode. I wonder if people would like that. I might. Anyway, thank you so much, and just remember to adapt and overcome. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.